graphic nature of this program, listener discretion is advised.
Let's get retarded in here.
Because democracy basically means government by the people, of the people, for the people. But the people are retarded. Government by the retarded, for the retarded, of the retarded.
Never met a girl that you tried to date, but a year to make love, she wanted you to wait. Let me tell you a story of my situation. I was talking to this girl from the U.S. nation. The way that I met her was on tour at a concert. She had long hair and a short miniskirt. I just got on stage dripping, pouring with sweat. I was walking through the crowd, and guess who I met? I whispered in her ear, come to the picture booth so I can ask you some questions to see if you're 100 proof. I asked her name, she said blah blah blah. She had 9-10 pants and a very big bra. I took a couple of flicks and she was enthused. I said, how do you like the show? She said I was very amused. I started throwing this, she started throwing that mid-range, but when I sprung the question, she acted kind of strange. Then when I asked, do you have a man? She tried to pretend. She said, no I don't, I only have a friend. Lose control. Come on, I'm not even going for it. This is what I'm going to say.
Stay the fuck at home.
Your podcast will fail.
It's just a coincidence that you were talking about the Jack and Triumph show and I'm here. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Hey man, this is Kevin Smith, guy who makes all those unlistenable podcasts over at smodcast.com, and you're listening to the Two Strangers One podcast. This is podcasting.
You're listening to Two Strangers, One Podcast. Subscribe to us on iTunes or on the Stitcher app for Android devices. Please visit twostrangersonepodcast.net. Now, here's Chris Cologne and Paul Pasquillo.
Well, hello and welcome to Two Strangers, One Podcast. I'm Chris.
I'm Paul.
And Paul, once again, another long gap in between episodes, but you've been busy. I've been busy.
I haven't been busy.
You have been busy, which we'll get to. We'll get to in a So the last episode was, story time with Chris, and I was having, there's been this ongoing saga with my crazy, and I think this might actually be the last chapter of the saga. So I guess my neighbor moved out. Sweet. When you wait long enough, I've outlasted, a lot of people. I'm one of those people that, I dig my feet in the ground and I don't fucking move. And usually the problems will go away, or the problems will work themselves out for themselves. Because usually someone who is like that, someone who was like my neighbor, they usually play themselves out. They're the kind of people that if I don't get you, something's gonna get you. You know what I'm saying? I let karma do its business, and I said, when I get you, I'm not looking for revenge or anything like that. And trust me, I had plenty of ideas on things I wanted to do. Nothing I'll admit on the podcast so I don't get investigated. But trust me, I had a lot of plans of shit that I was planning to do when and if I moved out with the crazy neighbor. But that being said, okay, so she's been gone for about a month now. Pretty much around the time they were recording the last episode, which was around my birthday.
Funny. That is really funny.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that, it's one of those deals where after about 2 or 3 days, first and foremost, I could actually park in the back of my apartment now, with park in the area, the designated parking area behind my apartment. That's actually nice that there's no one blocking the fucking driveway. But the biggest thing I noticed is that nobody's slamming fucking doors downstairs anymore. And it's sad to think that I had gotten used to. And mind you, I lived in parts of the Bronx, and I think even you've commented, when I used to live right by the highway in my old apartment, and you could hear it on the podcast, and you're like, damn, Chris, you don't hear all those cars and shit just driving by? I get used to noise. I'm used to noise. And this fucking bitch and her family, they couldn't just close a door in their house. And, every door always fucking had to be slammed. And right. So, and the whole thing is that, my main hangout spot, when I'm sitting in front of my computer and shit like that, is sort of over one of their doors, because there's two entrances to the apartment, and and they slam the doors hard, and it's right under my feet, and I feel it, and the fucking floor shakes, and it's Jesus Christ. So it's sad that I noticed that you're missing. I've noticed you're not around anymore from the lack of fucking ridiculously loud, unnecessary fucking noise. So that's been great. Now, I don't know. Did I tell you that the girls, my neighbor's like sister or daughter or somebody like they assaulted like my neighbor's girlfriend?
You mentioned that on the last podcast, okay. I believe.
So the weird thing is that like I haven't seen him either. I saw him once, and I think he moved out. I think he wasn't ready for the long haul. He didn't dig his feet in like I did, and he up and left. I think I've seen him once since then, and he was like, and I've heard stuff moving around downstairs also. But so I think, I don't think he had much stuff to move in anyway. He was kind of like he was there with his girlfriend, but he seemed like a bachelor type. Maybe this was the straw that broke the camel's back. Is all right, baby, I'm gonna move in with you or something like that. But I hadn't seen him. So the weird thing is that like she's gone, he's gone. Like I feel like I have the whole fucking, I have the whole complex to myself. It's great, So I like, it's late at night if the TV's blasting, or I could play music, or I could do my karaoke thing. I like to go into apps and sing the karaoke. So I could do karaoke to fucking midnight now, without worrying about having to piss off the neighbors. I just hope whoever moves in after them isn't I hope they're decent fucking human beings that know how to live with other people. Okay, so with that, it's not the final. Okay, it's the final chapter, but there was one little slight kick in the nuts. So long story short, the front license plate on my car was stolen. And I don't know when, and I don't know, I have an idea what day it happened, but I didn't notice it until like last week Saturday. And I've driven down to New York, and if you saw it on Facebook. So the reason I have a feeling it was the crazy neighbors, one, she always with cars, because before she got her really nice car, she used to have a piece of shit car, but the piece of shit car, it would have, like, sometimes the license plate would be on it, sometimes it wouldn't. She never had one on the front. And I think it was some sort of deal, from what I understand or from what I overheard. She was using like her boyfriend's driver's, his license plate or some shit like that. Like they both had cars. They were both using, in New York State, you have to have both the front and back license plates. But technically, if you have on your back plate and you don't drive like a fucking idiot, cops generally won't pull you over. Because I was driving around for a couple of days. Shit, I drove all the way from fucking Rochester to New York City. I didn't get pulled over by any state troopers or anything like that. And at that particular time, I didn't notice until I got to New York City that my license plate was missing.
You realize now you're gonna get pulled over, right?
No. So I've since then I've replaced my license plate.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. So what I did was at least how it is in Rochester, I reported it stolen. I had to go to the public safety building, get this stupid piece of paper. But then the funny thing is the guy's like, you're going to want to go to the DMV as soon as you can, because right now your license plate is reported as stolen. So technically you could get pulled over. Obviously, and it's not like, look, I don't drive around with drugs in the car. I don't have any fucking other crazy warrants or anything like that. So if I get pulled over, I can show the cop the piece of paper and say, hey, here's the paper. But since then, like the next day, excuse me, I think there was a day passed only because I was able to schedule an appointment, because right now we're at a weird thing where they still have appointments at the DMV, but I think like every hour on the hour they take in like 15 people.
Yeah.
So like you could wait like on standby, and if they have the space available, they'll take you in. But they're still right now, because of COVID and everything like that, we still have appointments. So I set up appointments for like 2 days later, which is great, because the last time when I switched my cars, that was shit. You had to fucking make an appointment a month out. And so the guy's like, you just understand that you're driving right now with the license plate that is reported stolen. And he goes, but hold on to this paper and take it to the DMV. So I went to the DMV. Luckily, there's no extra charge or anything like that. They sort of just, now they issued it, new registration, new plates, and I'm still at that weird point where like I don't even know. I haven't memorized it yet. I'm still fucking like if you needed to know my license plate, I'd have to pull out my registration to look at it.
That's funny.
I was thinking about getting a personalized plate. That's neither here or there.
That's some money to drop, but continue.
Yeah. Okay. So now the reason I think it was my crazy neighbor is in the back of my house, in the parking area, there are motion detector lights. You walk by them, they turn on. After dark, they turn on. And so one of them was ripped from the fucking wall down. Now, I noticed obviously it took, once I drove back, I got back to Rochester, and the fucking part was on the floor. Called my landlord. I have no proof. I can't say who it was, but luckily, like they had a new one up in the next, like within 24 hours. So goody on my landlord for staying on top of shit. Like,
yeah,
So what I did was I bought these. They're like security screws. Because with a license plate, I mean, anybody, if you have anybody with a screwdriver, technically, can walk up to your car and pull your fucking plates off. A lot of people, we take that for granted. Like, if you live in a decent area, and I've lived in the hood my whole fucking life, I've never had my license plates. You know what I'm saying? I mean, not my whole life, but I've lived in pretty rough fucking areas. I've had my car broken into. I've never had my license plate stolen, but we take for granted that anybody with a screwdriver can just walk up to your car and take your license plate. Thank goodness. And plus, the way I park my car, you'd have to like walk on the one on the back. I back up into the fence.
I figured that's what you did. Yeah.
And you came in and say, but it's also that weird sort of like violated, and it's the same thing like when your car gets broken into in the first place. And I've had my car broken into a couple times. It's that like somebody was touching my shit. Someone was bold enough to come here in the fucking middle of the night. Rip down the fucking sign. And we've had a lot of crazy rain around here recently. Like you could kind of like rip down not the sign, rip down the light. And like catch it before it hits the ground or whatever. It's just you do feel that weird sort of fucked up violation, like someone had their hands on my stuff. But it's also like, okay, now you have a license plate. Now that license plate is reported stolen. So you better hope you don't get fucking deputy dog. You get a and plus a woman like that, a pain in the ass like that would be the kind of person to like talk back to a cop, and would be the type of person that would start shit and resist arrest. So it's only going to end up bad for her. You know what I'm saying? Because she's driving out with a stolen license plate now. And once again, I mean, I have no proof, but I mean, come on. After all the fucking issues that I had with this woman and all the shady shit that she was doing with her own car, it doesn't take Sherlock Holmes to figure out that she took my license plate and now this idiot's driving around with it. And like I said, so I got these new security things where all it is, you need a funky screwdriver to take it off. You can't just take it off with a regular screwdriver. It's have this weird, it has a weird shape. Like like when you buy you ever bought certain things and like they don't want you to tamper with it, so they have like it looks like a fucking like triangle on the inside. Like it looks like a screw, but you have to buy this special and if you're going on Amazon to order this special screwdriver to take my license plate, then fucking you've earned it. You can take my license plate. So there's that, and then just the once again story time again. The whole reason, like when I went down to New York City, and I was because you go down to visit New York City. I went down and looking for a parking, but I was with a buddy of mine, and I was taking him to visit old CBGBs. CBGBs is like a punk rock club and shit like that. And the funny thing now is that like it's now like a clothing store. Now they kept like the facade of the place, like they kept the walls and shit like that. But CBGB's like that's where the Ramones played. That's where like Iggy Pop played. Like that's like visiting there is like for some people it's like a fucking religious experience. My buddy Tom was like fucking almost crying when he and he posted about it on Facebook. So I'm not embarrassing when I say it. And so the whole thing is I'm looking for parking, and now in New York they have like a thing like you could pay for of course they want to make it as much as convenient as they can so they could take your fucking money. I was paying for like when you put the little stupid tag in your window that you parked or whatever. Like now you don't even have to have that. You could just pay with the app on your phone. So I was standing outside the car and I'm looking. And and they're like, "What's your license plate number?" I'm registering my car on the fucking bullshit New York City parking app or whatever. And like, "What's your license plate?" And I go to, once again, I don't know my license plate off the top of my head. And I go and I look and I'm like, where the fuck is my license? Where the fuck is my license plate? Now we had gone down. I had decided to make it like a combo trip because, Bruce Campbell, from star of Living Dead. Excuse me, not Living Dead. Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, Ash versus the Evil Dead, which was on Stars, but now you can watch it on Netflix. He was on a bunch of Xena episodes. He was like one of the, because Sam Raimi was like an executive producer on those Xena shows. He was on Xena. He's Bruce Campbell. I mean, Bubba Hotep. He's sort of like, he makes all these shitty, and he's in all the Spider-Man Sam Raimi movies. They were gonna reveal that he was gonna be Mysterio in Spider-Man 4, which I have a funny story about that. So Bruce Campbell is on tour right now, where he's going to different drive-ins throughout the United States, and they're playing different combinations of his movies and stuff like that. So he was playing within Rochester driving distance. He was playing in Syracuse, and they called it the Finger Lakes, and it was about an hour outside Rochester, but it was sold out. So then they said he was also doing a spot, an appearance in Middletown, New York. Now, Middletown, New York is about an hour north of New York City. I have family that lives in Middletown, and I have friends, that I grew up with that live in Middletown. And it's one of those places where, look, let's call a fucking spade a spade. Middletown's a fucking shitty armpit of a fucking city. And this is coming from someone who lives in Rochester. Rochester and Middletown, New York are both on a race to the bottom of the fucking list of places. So they were playing in Rochester. In Middletown. So I was like, fuck it, let me make a trip of it. Let me go visit. I'll visit my mom. I could bring my daughter to visit my mom. Then go with my buddy Tom to go to the drive-in. So we went. They had a meet and greet. You got to pay a couple bucks for that. You get a meet and greet. You get the autographed poster and all this shit. So we went down, got a chance. Now here's the fucked up part is my ticket says, the movie started at 9, so my ticket says 8:30 is the meet and greet. So we get there at like 8:10, and the lady at the front, they stopped doing the meet and greets at 8, and I said, out of here. I said, my ticket says 8:30. So I go, and it's it's this little fucking thing rundown driving. I go to the guy, and there's this big tour bus parked off to the side of the building, and this little camper thing. And so I'm like, dude, the fucking ticket says 8:30, and nothing. Oh, what do you mean it was over 8 or whatever? And actually there were a couple other people in our situation that had gotten there late. And so and I said, look at and I thank goodness I had my ticket printed up on the internet on paper. And then like he went and he spoke to some guy like in the tour bus and all this shit. And so then like I see the guy like kind of give a nod and a thumbs up, like all right. And they're like, all right. So they go, Bruce is supposed to take the stage at 9. Right before he goes on stage, he'll because it was just 3 of us. So he's like, we'll take your guys' pictures, and it was literally like take a picture, get a fist bump, keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? And as someone who'd been to a million Comic-Cons, I sort of was, I'm used to that sort of the treatment. Tell your celebrity you love them and you mean the world to them, and then the funny thing is that I'm not like the biggest Bruce Campbell fan. But I did love Ash versus the Evil Dead. Like if you have Netflix, I definitely recommend it. It's horror, but it's comedy. Like it gets goofy. I say horror, but it's just a reason, excuse to fucking throw blood on everything and have zombies, and killing and shit like that. Like I said, it's comedy with a horror tinge. It's not horror with a comedy tinge. And then last year I had one of the other stars of the show, Dana De Lorenzo, who's like this super hot Italian chick, do like a cameo for me. So she was. I don't remember I was sharing that a while back. I mean, that was like over a year ago, right before the pandemic hit. So had a chance to do that. Got to meet Bruce Campbell. Saw the Bubba I never saw Bubba Hotep, so I got a chance to see that in the drive-in. Saw Evil Dead 2. And then those are the movies you're gonna want. Because Evil Dead 1 isn't that great of a movie. Evil Dead 1 and Evil Dead 2 are pretty much the same fucking movie. And then Bubba Hotep, which was weird. It's a fucking weird movie, but it's fun. It's one of those movies where you can't take that movie seriously because It's supposed to be that he plays a guy who you don't know if he's crazy or not, but he claims to be Elvis in an old age home. And the actor Ozzie Davis, famed accredited black actor Ozzie Davis, claims that he's John F. Kennedy. And they're two people in an old age home, and they're both fucking obviously crazy. And there's a mummy, which is, another reason to show like a zombie character, Bubba Hotep, who's like killing and eating old people. Like he's eating their souls because, they're easy victims and shit. So now they have to fight the mummy, And so it's a goofy ass fucking movie, but it was fun. Once again, you don't watch shit like that seriously. But like okay. So let me tell you, this fucking rinky-dink fucking drive-in. I mean, thank God they let us go see Bruce Campbell, so I shouldn't beat him up too bad. But we've been getting a lot of fucking rain. People want to talk about global warming and that shit doesn't exist. Meanwhile, in fucking the northeast part of the United States, which is usually nice and cool and shit like that, they're getting fucking triple-digit weather, and certainly the northeast has been getting a shit ton of fucking just like pouring rain all day, every day. So this drive-in, obviously, did not have great drainage issues. It's just big, giant, if you ever, I don't know last time you've been to a drive-in, but they have big things like in humps. When you drive your car, you kind of drive your car up on the hump, so you're kind of pointed up looking at the screen a little bit. So, bad drainage, and I say bad drainage, it's not like, nobody is prepared for all this fucking crazy water. So, bad drainage, and then the drainage kind of, I don't know how this shit works, kind of like seeped into their septic tank, for the lack of a better term. So about in between the movies, when everybody gets up to go take a piss before they see this double feature, and luckily I got a chance to fucking squirt my piss out. But the toilets were backed up. There was so much water in the septic tank, the water was actually coming out of the fucking toilets onto the floor, which means everyone's piss was just turned into big giant puddles. So this poor fucking little mom and pop fucking drive-in had just nasty, and I'm pretty sure for that event, I'm pretty sure on an average weekend, they get a couple dozen customers, and now for an event that they're hosting, now they have hundreds of people there, and they're between that and the crazy rain, their facilities were just not ready to handle. I think I'd have to take a shit. But my friend that lives up there says, make sure you bring mosquito spray, which I sprayed the shit. I sprayed myself fucking head to toe. Luckily, I didn't get bitten or anything like that. But other than, walking through puddles and pissing, the piss coming back out of the toilet and the bad drainage issue, it was a great experience. Once again, got a chance to meet Bruce Campbell. Now, here's what I wanted to say, and I don't know if we could save this for the nerdy news, but I'd rather say it now. Okay, so they are releasing an Evil Dead video game. It was supposed to come out this year, but he said that they want to get things right and everything like that, so they're pushing it back to next year. And so someone asked him, what's his next role? And he goes, well, I have a movie that's in the can, and shit, I forgot I think it's called Black Friday. And it's about, he's a manager at like a bullshit Toys R Us store, like a, janky Toys R Us store that gets attacked by aliens. And then he goes, but there is another movie that we haven't filmed yet, but we're about to, and it's a very strange movie. And so, that's the illusion that he's going to be in the next Doctor Strange movie. And I don't know if you've been following Loki or anything like that, but the big whoop is that Loki has finally officially to the Marvel universe has introduced the multiverse. When back in there was those suspicions that they were doing it in WandaVision when they brought in the guy who played Quicksilver from the Fox movies. From the X-Men Fox movies, but that turned out to be a red herring. That was, and then, but now, and it's and it's not really spoilers, but like on the last episode, now the timelines have been broken. Without, I guess I'm sorry, that is a spoiler, but from Loki, the timelines are broken. Now there's officially branching stories from the multiverse. So technically, any fucking Marvel movie that ever existed can now technically exist in this storyline because they broke the timeline. So and remember, Bruce Campbell was supposed to be Mysterio in Spider-Man 4. That was going to be, he was in 1, 2, and 3 and all these little cameos, and it was supposed to be that he was always watching Peter Parker from the side. Like, he kind of knew Peter Parker was Spider-Man, and he was always sort of putting himself in position so he could keep an eye on Peter Parker. And, once again, and Sam Raimi is directing the next Spider-Man movie. The last guy that directed it, I think he went over to do something else, so they brought in Sam Raimi, and that's going to take, between the next, Spider-Man No Way Home with the multiverse, with having Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, along with obviously Tom Holland, and then Marvel's having the What If show, but that's not a multiverse. I mean, I guess technically it is kind of a multiverse. It's sort of like What If, but it's not. It's sort of just looking at other timelines. It's none of it's supposed to be canon. It's like, what if Peggy Carter became Captain America? What if Killmonger was Star-Lord? Like, they picked up Killmonger instead of Peter Quill. What if? I know there's a bunch of them. There's about 6 or 7 episodes, and so now with the Sam Raimi, he's going to be doing the next Spider-Man movie. So I'm wondering. I mean, obviously Bruce Campbell will have a cameo in it, Bruce Campbell. But I'm wondering if they're gonna have him cameo as Mysterio, because seeing that was supposed to be Sam Raimi's next movie and sequel, it would be great to think that we got to see Bruce Campbell as Mysterio. So a moment ago I had said I'm used to the New York Comic Con treatment. They are going to have it in October. Both I and Matt have applied for our press passes. Everything's still up in the air because they haven't made an announcement on, like, usually around this, we would have known back in May exactly what our situations were. And usually it's sort of like you get an email just to renew your press pass. Both Matt and I sort of had to reapply. But I tell you, Paul, I'm ready to fucking I'm ready for Comic-Con. I'll take COVID Delta variant.
Oh Lord.
I'll take the monkey flu. I'll take whatever the fuck they got. I miss Comic-Con so bad.
I can't do a con that big right now. I couldn't even I don't even know why you would want to do that, honestly. Cuz number one, they sold out New York Comic-Con, which just made me go,
it's the first
okay.
It's the first. I mean, people are having cons, and I know, like, the other big one is called Pensacon, which is like in Pensacola, Florida, and I mean, but there's like little mini cons. Yeah, there's many cons on right now, but what? There was no MomoCon this year, right? Or was there? Was there MomoCon?
No, well, I mean, it was all online, so.
I'm saying, I mean, as for like cons, MomoCon's a big one, Dragon Con's a big one. They didn't have but once again, Pensacon is sort of around. Pensacon is sort of in October also. I mean, don't quote me on that. I could be wrong, but that I think that's like a week after New York Comic Con. Then San Diego's officially been. San Diego's not happening this year. Not that whatever, but New York Comic Con's going to be the first major fucking con.
Sounds like it.
And hey, if I gotta fucking wear a mask, I'll wear the mask all fucking 4 days. I'll do what I gotta do. You know what I'm saying? I'll take my.
Please wear a mask.
I'll
dude.
say my prayers and take my vitamins.
I was saying to a couple people that I've put this up on Twitter that I'll be honest, like, going forward when I go to cons, because I really haven't been sick since this whole pandemic. I mean, granted, yes, I've been home most of the time, but I was sitting there thinking to myself, like, if I go to something like that, or even if I'm working and we have like shit tons of people, I don't really want to not have a mask on, even though I'm fully vaccinated. So it's like, I'm probably going to I'm probably going to continue doing that for a while, because people, let's just be real. People are fucking morons.
Yeah. I mean, I still break out my mask, usually it's usually, I mean, the only place I go that I would really wear it now is Walmart. Because I just don't. I don't want to say I like Walmart. I'm just saying that's one of the places I tend to go, and I don't fucking trust the people who go there. Especially now. I mean, I said it like a joke, but there is a fucking Delta variant that's been taken. So the thing, 99% of the people that are dying of COVID now are people who haven't been vaccinated. And obviously, if you haven't been vaccinated by this point, you're not going to get vaccinated. You know what I'm saying? Like, anybody who's holding out now, when it's like a free fucking shot, if you haven't gotten it by now, you're not going to get it.
Right.
And so those people, I guess, they have to die. Unfortunately, all these people died. Where the fuck is all the real estate? Do you think you'd find cheaper apartments and houses and shit?
I gotta say, if you don't, first of all, let me make this clear. I'm never gonna force somebody to do something. I'm not gonna force you to go out and get the COVID-19 the vaccine. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest with you, and actually I'll probably talk about my baby here in a minute because, that's what's happened to me in this last month. Basically when we were in the hospital after my girlfriend gave birth, and I'll talk about my kid here in a minute, but the doctor was saying, telling my girlfriend you should get the COVID shot. And the only one that they offered was the Johnson & Johnson. And she looked at the doctor and said, I don't know if I really want the Johnson & Johnson. She said, the doctor literally said to her, if you can wait to get the Pfizer, the Moderna one, I would do that. Johnson & Johnson is probably not what you want right now. Mm. So, if you go by your doctor's advice and your doctor says don't get it or says to get something else, do that. Because I do respect people that, listen to somebody like their doctor before they do something. But at this point, if we're doing some kind of political talking points, and a vaccine really shouldn't be political, a lot of fucking things are political right now, which is really fucking frustrating. And that's something I want to talk about here in a minute. About speaking of politics, we'll talk about something else too. It's like, if you don't have the vaccine by now, I mean, I don't really feel sorry for you unless there's a reason you don't have a vaccine. Like, obviously there's people that have certain diseases or certain, what am I trying to say here? Like, you can't take a vaccine. Mm-hmm. If you take a vaccine, you're probably going to get really sick or hurt yourself or possibly even die. Mm-hmm. If you're in that kind of situation, then, hey, I think you're fine. But if we're talking about other people that are just like, I don't want it because political reason, insert political reason, or, I'm not going to get COVID or whatever, I don't feel really bad for you. I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't.
And that's who that's going to become. I mean, I know what you're saying, but that's what I'm talking about. The people who have every fucking chance and opportunity to go, and it just, for whatever fucking bullshit, hard-headed, bullheaded, stubborn fucking excuse, don't get it because, just fucking die already. Free up that fucking real estate. You know what I'm saying?
And I'll be honest, it's, you see these news organizations, with the exception of Fox, because Fox is stupid, where they sit there and they go, oh, well, for example, New York State, cases have jumped up. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking at like Monroe County, where we are, Rochester, has a tracker, says how many people are getting COVID every day and how many people have been vaccinated with at least one shot and got 2 shots, that kind of thing. I'm looking at the tracker and I'm looking at that and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And then there's another map that CNN put out where they're showing where the high transmission rate is. Mm-hmm. And a lot of New York, especially around the cities, doesn't have a high transmission rate. Mm-hmm. I don't know about New York City because I really wasn't paying attention to that, but basically the state is really good. I mean, the state's over 70% with one shot. Yeah. So, for example, I feel pretty confident with Rochester being over 60% right now, which is true. With people having one shot, I feel really comfortable working because let's face it, we're not really getting a lot of people right now, to, be face to face with people and not have a mask on. Now, I do have a mask in my suit coat because if it gets to the point of where we get to the business that we used to have, I'm going to mask up because I don't know where these people have been. I don't want to get COVID, you know? And yes, unfortunately, even though it's a very, very, very small percentage, there are people that have been vaccinated that will still get it. So I just don't want to be that person. So that's all. I mean, I commend you for going, but I'm kind of sitting here thinking to myself, like,
I'll take the COVID. If I fucking die of COVID, you can say, look, he died because he did something he wanted to fucking do.
All right, so Two Strangers One Podcast will be Paul's new podcast.
He died doing something he loved. If I'm going to die, I want to die at Comic-Con, okay? Yeah. That's the place. Then I will die a happy man.
Yeah.
Like or you know, or like, you know, it's 2-3 weeks after Comic-Con, and like Paul on the podcast, I have a really sad announcement. I got COVID-20. And I got the Delta variant,
to Paul.
and Doc's giving me about 6 weeks to live. You know, so look, I got it at Comic-Con. I spent the last days of my life doing something I
Chris, just do me a favor. If you get COVID and you're gonna die, just get laid, please. Please. But before we go to commercial and get into the nerdy news, so to speak, I kind of wanted to talk about two things. Obviously, I've been gone. I haven't been gone. I haven't really been on because, and we really haven't recorded, I should say, because obviously I had a kid. I've talked about that. He's over a month now, and you know, it's the typical, you know, how do I put this? He's very fussy at some points, and you know, if my kid needs to go to the bathroom, he's pretty much going to be up for a lot of the day. But you know, he's getting used to life and, you know, used to sleeping at night, so it's getting better. But you know, I haven't done this in 15 years, folks. It's kind of a learning experience again. So, but I will say this on the podcast that I'm not having any more kids. So, you know, if I end up having another kid, you guys can yell at me.
Hey, unless some woman comes to me with some fucking magic pussy, I'm fucking. Because I am done. I am not.
Yeah,
I'm not having any natural kids. You know, like. I mean, you know, I may, like, if I get with a chick, she may have a kid. You know what I'm saying? Like, I may get you know, I'll get with someone that, you know, puts her claws in me to fucking try to have a kid or something like that. But, you know, I got no fucking plans. That's it. I don't know how people have like 2 or 3 or whatever.
I mean, I'll be honest. I just wanted to have another kid because I kind of felt like the one that I have, the 15-year-old, like I just never really got to spend or do what I wanted to him for most of his life. Do with him, wanted to him. Wow, I'm losing my mind. That's how tired I am. But, you know, it's going to be great to be able to be like, okay, I can spend Christmas with my kid. I can spend Thanksgiving with my kid. I can, you know, be there on Christmas morning when he opens his gifts. Like, to me, that's awesome. So, you know, and, you know, it's going to, obviously, once he gets into a sleeping pattern, we'll probably do podcasts a little bit more. I'll be able to do the Toonami Faithful podcast more too. But right now, it's, you know, if he's like, I was going to do a podcast with the Toonami Faithful podcast this on, I think, Wednesday or Thursday, and my kid was still up. And that was not, I mean, unless you want to have your podcast to be a kid crying in the background, it's not going to happen. So,
yeah.
But speaking of politics, one thing that I wanted to talk about, and I think this is a good thing for us to talk about. So I'm sure you've heard in the news, Chris, because I mean, obviously you probably take you may not take the New York State Thruway, but the New York State Thruway has a bunch of, what are they called? Rest stops. Is that the term? Truck stops? Whatever you want to call
rest stops. Sometimes they call texting stops.
Right,
rest
whatever.
Stops,
where they have like the restaurants and the gas, and you can get all these, and they're placed so often, so that way, at some point you'll run into one a couple times if you travel.
It's pretty much every hour, every 45 minutes if you stand. Because I do take the throughway, but I'm on the throughway for a little over an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah, so you probably pass about at least 3 truck stops on the side there.
Yeah.
So basically what's going on is New York State signed did this thing where they're going to update all the stops, and there's going to be like a grocery store, I think, in them, like a mini grocery store or something like that, and they're going to still have the restaurants. But one of those restaurants has obviously become political, which is Chick-fil-A, obviously. And, you know, we have obviously the Democrats being like, oh, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want this. And then you have Republicans being like, well, they have the right to do business wherever. And they basically, you know, Chick-fil-A is one of these businesses that's going in, and, you know, people are just making this more about politics. Yes, I get the whole LGBTQ thing, because they're contributing to organizations that are against that or whatever. And yeah, I get that. That's bad. That's a bad thing for your business if you're doing that. I get it. I understand. But my biggest problem isn't that. My biggest problem is the fact that Chick-fil-A closes on Sundays. Sundays is probably one of the busier days for the Thruway, and you're going to put a restaurant on the Thruway at several different truck stops, rest stops, whatever you want to call them, and it's going to be closed. Why? Like, did you think this one out? Because it's like, if you have like, and I was thinking about this today, Chris, like, you got the Bills games on Sundays. You're telling me, like, if there's a Bills game at 1 o'clock and ends at 4, people are going to want to stop on their way home, possibly at one of these truck stops, and get food. Oh, I want to go to Chick-fil-A. Wait, Chick-fil-A is not open. Yeah. So now you just wasted your time.
Well, I mean, I'm assuming they'll have more than one place. I mean, everywhere I go, even right now, the rest stops, you know, there'll be a McDonald's, but there'll also be...
Right.
You know, I mean, it's not usually... Okay, now I understand if you want hot food, you know, fast food, hot food, or whatever you want to call it, you know, if you want hot food and Chick-fil-A may not be the option, okay, that's, you know, that's Chick-fil-A's decision to close on a Sunday. And this is coming from someone who fucking hates Chick-fil-A. But I mean, like, most, even if like you replace the places now, you can still go to, like, you know, you know, all these places always have sort of like the newsstand place. You know, the place where, you know, you could buy the map of the highway, and you could buy a Snickers bar, and you could buy your Snapple or Monster Energy drink or some shit like that. So, like, okay, fine. If you want a hot sandwich, then you might be shit out of luck on a Sunday if Chick-fil-A is the option. But most of these places have, like I said, the vendor. You know what I'm saying? It's, you know, it's it's funny because you'll get your Snapple or whatever, but there's also like a $10 I Love New York refrigerator magnet. You know, I'm not gonna fucking buy, obviously, but, you know, some tourist on the road, someone traveling through will pay $10 for a refrigerator magnet.
So it's not gonna be. I need to make that clarification. It's not just Chick-fil-A's going in these truck stops. There's Dunkin' Donuts, there's Burger King's, there's Starbucks. I think I mentioned all the ones besides Chick-fil-A. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not going to be every truck stop, so that's a good thing. But again, it's like, but why would you even do that? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Look, I mean, they fucking survived all this time. They've been around for a minute. And, you know, once again, this is coming from someone who fucking hates their guts. I mean, you know, it's their business model. They've lasted this long. They've come to fucking New York, you know, like I said, you know, I remember I went to them. That was 2002, 2003, and I was in fucking Maryland, and somehow, you know, business is so well that they've expanded to, you know, and there's people who fucking, you know, apparently people love their fucking product, and like I said, I enjoyed the sandwich when I went, I enjoyed the food when I went before I knew their fucking politics, and you know, there are people out there, you know, because I've had to call out a couple people on fucking on Instagram, not more than Twitter, where I see them like eating Chick-fil-A, and I'm like, you know, how the fuck, you know, am I the fucking first person to tell you that, you know, Chick-fil-A is like anti-gay and have supported, like, you know, religious groups and you know, these camps, you know, that they feel like if like you're gay and you send your teenager to this camp, like, you know it'll, you know, they could pray the gay away and shit like that. It's like, don't you understand? They support groups like that, and the person's like, oh, I didn't know, and I'm like, how the fuck did you not know? How are you on social media and not know shit like that? But I mean, like, as for them, look, this is coming from someone who hates their fucking guts. They, as a business, they can go wherever the fuck they want. You know, saying if there's a place to be opened on a throughway, you know, and they're a business, you know, hey, you know, I don't like them, but you know, I can't say they can't operate. They're not going to get a dime of my fucking money, and they shouldn't. I feel like they should be out of business.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like, I'm not one of those people that's like they can't operate there. I'm just saying, it just seems really stupid to me that if I were on a council deciding on what restaurants can be in these new truck stop, rest stop, whatever, all these ones in New York State, like I would be like, why Chick-fil-A? They're, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
they're not even open on Sundays. That makes no sense. Yeah. So that's all I'm saying. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, you know, the same people that say you can't have guns or whatever. Like, I'm just saying that it just doesn't make any sense to me that it is. And I would, and much like everything else, I hate when things like this become political because it's stupid.
Yeah.
And it needs to stop. Honestly, everything does not need to be political. Me watching TV shouldn't be political. Me taking a shit should not be political. Like, me buying Taco Bell if I want a Taco Bell should not be political. Period. End of discussion. And I feel like our society is becoming, everything's political, and it just needs to stop.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So I think with that, we'll be back with more Dick and Fart jokes.
This episode of Two Strangers, One Podcast is brought to you by Comics Etc., 1115 East Main and North Goodman at the Hungerford Building, door number 8. Find out more information at comicsetc.biz or like them on Facebook at facebook.com/comicsetc1.
Did you ever see a film at such a young age it left you traumatized with cinematic wounds? Necrophilia. It's a dead issue, man. Don't push it. Cinema Psyops is a weekly podcast documenting an ongoing experiment on the mind of an unwilling test subject.
No one should have to watch this movie.
Oh, no one should have to watch this?
No one should have to watch this movie.
Surprisingly, it's not a topic that a lot of people really want to tackle.
I'm shocked, prudes.
I know, really.
Right?
It's the next sexual frontier that no one wants to explore.
I am, in the most sincerest of senses, disappointed in you.
It takes a powerful goddess like Connie, jam her arm down the monster's throat and kill it. Oh, I'm still tripping out over that. Even as a kid, I was like, I gotta find a girl like that. Every week, I get a new look of disappointment that I never thought I could get out of it.
Unimaginable. At 12 years old, you should not be watching this movie.
Obviously.
At 13, you should not be. 14, you shouldn't be. I'm not entirely sure even 17-year-olds should be watching this movie.
Just because you're offended by something doesn't mean that you have the right to demand that it doesn't exist. Watching this film again, I had all of this like little nerd glee with everything that kept
little
popping
history
up.
all popping up
absolutely.
at you.
So I totally loved this film.
Hey, I know why you couldn't see that. It's because your brain's warped from watching this shit at 12 years old.
Yeah, this is a rough movie. I told you ahead of time when we were getting ready to do it that it was going to be a rough
How could you watch
one.
this shit at 12?
Because physical wounds heal, cinematic ones don't. Listen to Cinema Psyops.
Victory Championship Wrestling presents Lethal Leap Year, on sale now for $9.99. Don't miss a single body slam or epic moment. Witness the showdown between Big Smooth and Johnny Slaughter for the BCW Championship. Go to bcwaction.com for exclusive events. Only found on bcwaction.com. And as an added bonus, the first 100 people to order this event will receive a free front row seat to the next event.
And we're back. All right, Paul. I don't have too much on the nerdy news. I guess I think I've mentioned this before. I've been mining Dogecoin, whatever you want to call it. You know, my tax return came in, and I invested in a pretty nice rig. It's what I'm using right now. The funny thing is that it is a great gaming rig, and yet I am not a gamer. But it's such a fucking nice machine. Like, it's future proof. Like, it's sort of like and I'm not one of those people. I don't play AAA games the day they come out. One of those people. But like, I should be good for the next 4 to 5 years on a fucking machine. But what I have been doing, and that was the big thing in the people complaining about, is there was actually a shortage of graphics card, is I've been mining Dogecoin. You set it up and you set it and forget it. And of course, Dogecoin has been has been tanking recently. They've been right after like Elon Musk, and the funny, Elon Musk was supposed to be the champion of Dogecoin. Right after his set out, and as a joke, he's like, "Oh yeah, it's a scam." They said it as a joke in the show, and unfortunately, people fucking, I don't know if they took it seriously or whatever. But I'm also thinking long term. Bitcoin back in 2013, there were people, you could buy 1 million Bitcoin for like $1 or some shit like, and now 1 Bitcoin is like $30,000, some ridiculous number. I'm thinking more of the long game. Set it and forget it. Mine it now, let it sit there, and then maybe one day it will have some sort of value. So, been doing that, and it's a pretty fucking, and like the graphics card, and I've been doing. Oh, and here's something. I guess I wanted to talk about in the beginning of the episode, and it was something I released it on the same day as the last episode. But I was working on a cartoon. This was sort of my pandemic project, my quarantine project. Last year, right around March or April, because I was still technically working in. I was still technically working in March. I'm suddenly on furlough from work, and I got nothing but time on my hands, and I broke out this script that I was working on a while back for a cartoon called Veil Corp. I like to call it a mix of like, Rick and Morty meets The Office. And I put together, now mind you, I had in my head, I have the whole like first season down, and I have my notes and shit like that. But I said, let me do the pilot, and I worked on the pilot with the actual script was, me and my coworker, and so we put the script together, but I was saying the script had been together. The script was sitting on my fucking hard drive, and the reason I bring it up is because my computer. If you watch the cartoon, all the backgrounds and stuff like that are 3D rendered, and they were rendered on my old laptop. And my old laptop back in the day was, I've had my laptop about 4 or 5 years now, and it's HP Envy. I remember like when you got your new HP Envy and how happy you were.
Yes.
I've been getting really into 3D rendering and 3D rendering programs and stuff like that. So I kind of needed a heavy duty computer and do shit like that. And so I put the cartoon out. You can go on YouTube.com, and on the Two Strangers One podcast page, just look up Veil Corp, Veil as in E-I-L, right? Veil Corp. Veil Corp, Veil being an anagram for evil. It's about a guy who goes to work at a evil corporation. And it's so weird to talk about it on the podcast because there's something that I've been keeping quiet for a while. And I purposely put it out on my birthday because I'm like, everybody's gonna reach out to me on my birthday to say happy birthday. So I'm like, okay, well, while you're busy telling me happy birthday, I'm gonna say, hey, check out my cartoon. I reached out to a lot of people on Fiverr. You know how I reached out to, but he was in fucking Japan or Korea, fucking Jim Nelson, one of your guys from the Tsunami Faithful podcast, who has done professional voice work in the past, but he goes, I don't have any of my rigs with me and shit like that. And I'm like, dude, I was like, I'm not asking for fucking blood, just read a couple lines. But I guess he didn't want to do it unless he was completely set up. But the good thing is, I believe he's coming back to the U.S., so I can I can harass him for my next project. So I hired people on Fiverr, voice actors on Fiverr. One of the people I actually hired also is a buddy of mine, but they did the character designs. The intro and the outro music they did on their computer. But the intro music I had, it was another Fiverr gig that I had a while back that I was trying to get music for another project I was working on. It didn't come through. And so I mixed the electrical part with like the heavy metal guitar part. So the intro is something I kind of remixed with what they gave me and with outro music. But some of the voice acting in this fucking one of the voice actors is he works for Second City. He's the same people, the Groundlings, people who do Saturday Night Live and shit like that. He's a guy who trains the classes for people who go to improv classes in Second City. Although it's a small part, and it's a guy who does the voices for the intro every week. John Bailey, the epic voice guy from Screen Junkies and shit like that, he has a voice in the cartoon. But there's a couple of people on this fucking on this project, and I don't want to point out anybody else's performance better than anyone else. But there are a couple people on the cartoon who were so it made me look good. You know what I'm saying? With my crappy animation and shitty backgrounds and I mean beautiful character design, but just me butchering it up with the way I animated it. But the voice acting, some of these people were fucking top notch, and I would work with these people again, and I'm surprised how they are not famous already or something like that, or who knows? I'm hoping maybe one day they will become more of a household name, and I go, hey, before they got famous, they were on my cartoon. So if you get a chance, go to our YouTube page, check out Veilcorp, Eilcor, and that's sort of that was also finishing the cartoon within a year. Now, mind you, I did it by myself, and the people that I hired, I mean, okay, the character design was done by my friends, two of my friends who also did voices in the show. So the character design, I didn't pay for, and and I would love to, I don't know if I was ever trying to make money on it or whatever. I want to compensate these people for their time. A lot of the voice actors I paid for, when all is said and done, I ended up spending about $700. So $700, and then just my time, and then last year, when my daughter's mother died, I mean that took a lot of wind out of my sails. I was kind of big into the project, and she passed away in the end. So it's been a year. I've been a single dad for a year. Where's my child support? But I've been a single dad for a year in the middle of the fucking pandemic. So that took a lot of. I would have probably gotten done with this project a lot sooner. Then plus also just being a dad. I mean, I can't focus too much on the fucking project if I got a kid running around every 5 wanting my attention. You could probably hear my daughter in the background. So. For $700 and a year, I got a fucking half an hour cartoon produced, which I think is pretty fucking awesome. And I really like the episode. I'm very fucking proud of it. It's not pretty. No, it's not pretty. But I have, just like my book, just like both my books, just like this podcast, it's something I could point my fucking finger at and say, you know what? It may not be, we may be doing one episode a fucking month or whatever, but that's my fucking baby. That's my ugly fucking baby that I'm, it's my thing. Been doing the podcast for 9 years. I read 2 books, did a cartoon, and shit like that I'm fucking proud of. And when I'm fucking dead, I get hit by a truck tomorrow, people, I love the cartoon, it was so great. No one telling me shit now, but after I'm in the ground, I didn't get a chance to tell them, but it was a good cartoon. But I'm really fucking proud of it, and maybe one day I can forward it to the right person and get my foot in the door. I did send a link to Chris Pranosky, the head of Titmouse. He was like, I'm on the road right now, I'm on a trip, and he probably gets shit like that all the time, and I don't expect anything to come of it, but at least I can say I made the attempt. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to harass the fucking guy. He's been very good to us as a podcast. He's been very good to the Tanami Faithful guys. Remember at Comic-Con, he did an interview with us right after he just did a fucking whole panel and shit. That he didn't have to do that. I've been a guest at his part. I've been, not a guest, but, I've crashed 2 or 3 Titmouse parties when I go to New York Comic-Con. So, he's been very good to us. So I don't want to harass him, but, I would love to, or maybe, something was happening to this. I work with Chris Pranosky, someone where do you want to take this? I want to work with Chris P. You know what I'm saying? Chris P's been good to me. Let's make this shit happen. And that cartoon is something you would see made by Titmouse. And that's something, and I always had, it's something you would see on Adult Swim. So I'm very proud of it, and thank you for letting me fucking talk shit for the past 10 minutes about how great my cartoon is. But but yeah,
You're fine.
So I've been mining Dogecoin, and like I said, I got myself a newer computer. I mean, pretty beefy fucking beef, so I can do stuff because when I was working on that fucking thing, on a cartoon, and some programs autosave. It goes 10 minutes autosave. And sometimes it'll autosave and fucking just lock up my computer while it's autosaving, which is good for me. I don't want to lose my progress, but also shit. Imagine every 10 minutes I told you have to fucking stop doing what you're doing, But then again, sometimes you need it to autosave because if you fuck up and there's a problem, because there's a couple times because my old laptop, the fan inside is broken, and if you're doing anything graphics intensive, it'll fucking overheat and just shut the fuck off, So, I got myself it was a little reward to myself. And once again, I love doing the podcast. I love talking about movies and cartoons and video games and shit. But also, I want to fucking make movies, cartoons, and video games. You know what I'm saying? I want to do all that shit. And look, I may be, 43 and I'm an old fuck and I'll never probably have a real shot in the business. But at least I can say I gave it a fucking shot, and I put it out there, and yeah, it's out there for free and shit like that. But I'm proud of it, and So, all right, let's move on. Let's move on with the news. Batman not eating Catwoman's pussy.
Oh yeah, that did happen while we were.
Let's talk about something serious. So it was a proposed scene for the Harley Quinn show on well, now it's on HBO Max. It was on
which is ironically going to be marathoned in a couple weeks on Toonami. But continue.
Oh shit. Well, the DC and Turner have always had a friendly relationship. So,
yep.
So the notes came back. We can't have a scene, and it wasn't even like it was going to be graphic. It was supposed to be Batman's head comes up into the screen from obviously Catwoman laying down or whatever, and he wipes his mouth or some shit like that. And they're like, "Oh, heroes don't do that." And I'm like, excuse me?
I mean, you apparently haven't seen other Batman comics or, I don't know, other Batman shows.
Yeah, I mean, just recently, DC Comics themselves, recently they had what was called Batman Black or Batman Dark.
I mean, if
when you see his dick in the comics,
I mean, if you want to go, if you really, really want to dig into this, I can't think of what the movie, I think it was, which one was it? I want to say it was Batman and Harley Quinn, maybe. I don't remember which one it was, but there was a scene where she takes
Robin.
She takes Nightwing hostage, and she has him tied to the bed, and she sees that he has, and she decides to fuck him.
Yeah.
So I'm confused. That's okay to imply, but you can't imply that.
Yeah, and especially
okay.
Where do they go? Heroes don't do that. I mean, even if you let's take all the fucking goofy ha ha ha. I mean, it's just it's a sexual act. It's nothing, and they have a sexual relationship. Fucking. Oh, but in the cartoon, it's canon in the cartoon that he has his son Damien with
exactly
with Ra's al Ghul, with Talia al Ghul. So let me get this straight. He can have a kid out of wedlock and everything like that.
But he can't go down on a woman.
Yeah, which is
that makes no sense.
The mother of his kid, his baby mama, is also an assassin and is the daughter of the fucking one of the biggest assassin organizations in the world, the most dangerous, starkest, secretest, and all this shit. Ra's al Ghul is on par with fucking the Joker, maybe just under the Joker when it comes to being Batman. Even though he doesn't get a lot of representation in the comics and shit like that, but I'm seeing as for someone that can that is a true mirror of Batman, is a true a fucking force to be reckoned with. Oh, he could fuck her daughter out of wedlock, but he can't go down on fucking Catwoman.
I mean, let's
established character. And come on, every rendition of Catwoman.
Well, I mean, let's take this a step farther. Do we need to talk about what happened in Killing Joke?
Oh yeah.
Like,
so the Joker can rape and torture or you know.
Well, not even. Well, I mean, Batman had sex with not Catwoman, Batgirl.
Yeah.
And it was implied, but you can't imply it in the cartoon. Again, I understand we're saying TV here, but there's some shit in that series that you sit there and go, oh, okay.
Yeah. And that show has had some pretty gory fucking moments. You know what I'm saying? Like people, blood splatter and people getting chopped to fucking bits.
I mean, also let's keep this in perspective. It's not on TV right now. It's actually on HBO Max. So you're telling me that you can't like have some disclaimer in front of the episode? By the way, kids probably aren't being allowed to watch this show in the first place because of the content that's coming out of this show.
That show, as I'm saying, that show has graphic violence. Real graphic fucking violence.
It's the whole reason why a lot of people were confused when TBS had it for a while, because they're sitting there and they're going, why isn't it over on Adult Swim? Like, you're talking about a comedy that's adult, that's a show that Adult Swim does all the time, and you're telling me that goes to TBS. I'm sitting there going like, really? Really? Like, yeah, it's going to be on Toonami for God's sakes. You know, like, I mean, if Toonami can put it on, I think we're good.
Yeah.
So,
like I said, this is a goofy little joke, and it's more implied than anything. I could understand, the scene was, he's going to town on her and shit like that. Okay, but it's literally like his head coming up, from off screen, and you could tell like she's laying on her back or whatever. I mean, they're being a little fucking uptight, let them have fun, especially like I said, that show has tons of cursing and all types of shit. But and once again, from Lee Merriweather to Eartha Kitt to Halle Berry to Michelle Pfeiffer to Anne Hathaway. I mean, come on.
Yeah, Anne Hathaway. Jesus Christ.
All of them. Every single one of them.
She's plastered her naked body on so many films at this point. It's just like.
But it was like, who wouldn't go down on it?
Yeah. You're talking about Catwoman. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying is like all these women who played Catwoman are all fucking fine, gorgeous women. Shit, fucking. Even the fucking animated series version. I mean, I know that I don't want to sound like that weird kind of perverted guy, or the fucking the Arkham Asylum games. Catwoman has always been super fucking sexy and shit. Like to say like you're not gonna go down on that. Like there's something fucking wrong with you. Heroes don't do that. This is so fucking prude. It is what it is, and maybe they'll make a joke of it somehow or some shit.
Yeah.
Saw Black Widow.
Yes, you did. You did see Black Widow, didn't you?
Oh yeah, yeah. Surprisingly good. I honestly thought it was gonna be like really fucking corny and stupid, and Black Widow's boring, and not that she's boring. I mean, obviously I'm a Marvel fanboy and everything like that, but like this was sort of like I had the lowest expectations for this movie, and I was pleasantly surprised. And let me tell you, and it didn't even translate, because okay. So I went, like I said, last week I went to the drive-in, to the Bruce Campbell thing, and it was one of those multi-drive-ins where, if I turned around, they were giving Black Widow, I can turn my head and watch Black Widow if I wanted to, and change the station on my radio and listen to that, listen to the FM transmission on that screen if I wanted to. But I was there for the Bruce Campbell thing, and when I was watching it, maybe it's because I'm watching scenes out of context and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, this looks boring. I'm not going to lie. It looked boring from last week. And so, I said, fuck it. It's a Marvel movie. And look, I've always been fanboy. I had said even back then, I'm like, look, I'm going to pay that $30 at Disney Plus, which I didn't. I ended up actually going to actual movie theaters, which I could have just watched it on Disney. I'd have to ask my boss if he got paid the $30. I mean, I could give him the $30, but. I said, fuck it. Let me just go to the theater, do the right thing. It's a Marvel movie. I support the Marvel movies. And like I said, really good. My only complaint is this movie should have come out a couple years ago. This movie, it should have come out after Captain America: Civil War. One, because that's when it takes place. The whole movie takes place after Captain America: Civil War, and it's also, yes, we had Captain Marvel, but Black Widow has been in the universe longer. She should have been the first female-fronted Marvel movie, instead of Captain Marvel, which no one really knew or gave a shit about, quite frankly. At least even in the first Avengers movie, Black Widow was fucking showing us how awesome she is. When she has the whole scene where she has the guy tied to the chair. Where she's tied to the chair, and you think like she's gonna get her ass beat, but it's actually like she always had the advantage anyway. She just let herself be tied to the chairs that let the guy think that he's getting over and shit like that. So she's always been an awesome character, and my only complaint is the movie should have been earlier. I mean, there's a little bit of a twist on who the Taskmaster is. I think that was kind of stupid. Because it's not the Taskmaster from the comics. I mean, it's not really spoiling that much, but I've heard it on other podcasts and seen it on YouTube videos, so I won't spoil it, but it's not the Taskmaster that's usually in the comics. But they explain it in a good way, and then plus technically, yes, you can have two Taskmasters. Not that I don't think they're ever going to address the Taskmaster issue again. But, in the comics, I believe at one point there were two Taskmasters. Did they fuck up the story? Yeah, they fucked that up. I liked all the characters. I loved David Harbour. What is this? David Harbour, the guy from Stranger? Oh my God, he's from New York too. He's from Westchester. But it was really good, and it's got what's her face from the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, Keira Knightley. And then the whole, this whole, and without spoiling too much, and it's not really, once again, and not really a spoiler if you kind of were following the whole universe. It's basically bringing in the new girl, the girl. I didn't see the movie Midsummer, but she was in the movie Midsummer. But it's supposed to be, we're introduced to, another girl from the Black Widow program who is like, for all intents and purposes, Black Widow's sister. Although they're not blood sisters, there's a bit to that, not so much either. But she's gonna come back in some future movie. The ongoing rumor is that they're basically gonna start like a second Avengers, where it's gonna be her and the daughter of Hawkeye and fucking what's his face, Abomination. And they're slowly bringing back all these characters. They have small roles in that movie, and then by the time we get to maybe not the next Avengers film, but the quote unquote next Avengers film after that, it'll be a whole new team of Avengers. So they're bringing all these people, sort of like everybody's getting replaced, And they'll have Ironheart, which is basically the girl Riri Williams, the black female teenage Iron Man and shit like that. So. They just haven't introduced that character yet. By the time we get to that next Avengers movie, they're going to establish that character. All right. So the Forever Purge, surprisingly good, better than I expected.
Yeah, you did see the Forever Purge.
Yeah, that was that's. I can't believe there's 5 fucking. I didn't realize there were there's the Purge, then there's the next Purge, and then there's Purge election year, and then there's one called the First Purge. There's a fucking I want to say USA Network has a fucking Purge TV show, but this one is called the Forever Purge, and without spoiling too much, it's basically the Purge comes and goes, and then the next day, when the Purge is supposed to be over, these people don't like the fact that the Purge is over, and so they continue the Purge, and it's sort of it's one of those deals where, it was written obviously before it was filmed and written right before, insurrection and shit like that. But I don't know if maybe they tweaked the movie after it was filmed and shit like that. Of course, they tweak movies up to the last minute, but it's certainly in a day and age where we have the insurrection by people who didn't like the decision that, not decision, but the honest fact that Donald Trump lost the election. And they took matters into their own hands. That's what the Purge did. Is these people didn't like the fact that the Purge was just one day, and so they took matters into their own hands. So I don't know if it was a decision made after the fact or whatever, but it like seeing that it comes just months after the insurrection is fucking brilliant. You know, like I said, it might have been a whole other movie before January 6th, and they just kind of added scenes or edited, you know, the reporters in the middle and shit like that. But it's surprisingly good movie, especially for like the 5th movie in a series. You know, usually by the time you get to number 5, it's dog shit. Richard Donner passed away. You know, gave us, you know, Superman 1 and 2, The Goonies, Lethal Weapon. The list goes on. I just thought it was particularly cool because they're talking about the kid who played Chunk in The Goonies, you know, and growing up as a fat kid, I traumatized every time I think about, you know, how many times they tell fat kids to do the truffle shuffle. But like Richard Donner, like paid for him to go to college and paid for him to go to like law school, I think it was paid for him to go to law school and shit like that. So, you know, and he's a Hollywood lawyer now and stuff like that. So it's sort of like, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not like Richard Donner's fucking crying for money or anything like that. He's a big time Hollywood producer and director. But, you know, the fact that, you know, he paid for Chunk's law school is nothing to sneeze at either. Did you see America, the Motion Picture on Netflix?
I did not, no.
Oh my god, it is so fucking ridiculous. I'm surprised it's not, or like I mentioned earlier, it's a titmouse. It's not a titmouse thing. It's from Sony. It's from the same people who did Into the Spider-Verse, and it's called America the Motion Picture, and it's a ridiculous, like, you know, it has to do with, like, you know, George Washington and Abraham Lincoln are friends. But then, like, you know, obviously, you know, Abraham Lincoln gets killed. But obviously, you know, the timelines all don't match up. And then, you know, then they recruit, like, oh my goodness, why am I drawing blanks on the names? You know, they recruit, like, Thomas Edison, and other, and it's like shit, like, you know, he has retractable chainsaws on his wrists. Like, you know, he pulls his hands out and, like, chainsaws pop out right above his wrists when he fights. It's, you know, and like, you know, they get on the Titanic and, you know, they're fighting, like, you know, King Richard or whatever. King Richard comes and it's like, you know, the Emperor from the Star Wars movies and shit like that. It is such a fucking ridiculous fucking movie. You know, super over the top. You know, no basis in fact or reality. All the guys everybody looks like a big giant fucking, you know, He-Man character and shit, like everyone's all jacked up and shit. Even like Abraham Lincoln looks like a fucking He-Man and shit like that. It is so fucking ridiculous, and I, you know, if you just want to just fucking turn off your brain for an hour and a half, and of course it has, you know, it does have, because the joke is, you know, these are white guys who want to be free, and like, you know, and yeah, they have, like, you know, there's a native, they're Geronimo joins them, and like, you know, it's like, how do I know, like they asked Geronimo to join the team. How do I know you're going to make this promise and not just, you know, turn your back on your promises when I'm done? And, you know, sort of like talking about like how Native Americans got stabbed in the back by colonists and shit. It is so fucking funny. And so I definitely recommend it when you get a chance. The trailer for the Sopranos prequel movie, Saints of Newark.
I have seen that. Yeah, that I'm like, I'm sitting there looking at the trailer and I'm like, this just seems like I mean, okay, yes, it's a gangster movie. Yes, The Sopranos is gangster, but I'm just like, it doesn't really seem like a Sopranos thing, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's supposed to take place in the 60s? I don't know. I mean, how fucking old is
I guess,
time?
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, like in the 60s, and it has to do with, like, race riots in Newark and shit like that, because I believe there were race riots, like, in Newark, so, you know, you got the Italians and the blacks, and you know, they're the up-and-coming mob boss and shit like that. You know, and I just find it hilarious, it's like Newark, it's like, because The Sopranos did not take place in Newark. The Sopranos was actually all in the suburbs and shit like that, so it's like, you know, and the suburb where they filmed most of the show is a place called Fairlawn, New Jersey, but to call it the Saints of Fairlawn doesn't exactly sound as intimidating as the Saints of Newark. But like I said, but at least Newark is like, you know, Newark is, you know, it's the part of the town you don't want to live. I mean, let's put it like that. I mean, does it happen to be the black place, the black part of town? Yes. But, I mean, once again, the 60s and the civil rights movement and the Italians, and they always have the tensions between the Italians and the blacks and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I loved, it's so weird. Like, I loved watching The Sopranos, but I also fucking hated it because, like, there were so many storylines that didn't go anywhere. They were like such great setups and then like no fucking payoff. And, Tony gets shot. There's like a whole season where he's like dead, but is he dead or not? There was this, there's this scene where like, his therapist gets raped or whatever, but then like she doesn't even tell Tony. Like, she could, obviously Tony had a thing for her and he's a powerful guy and she could have like told him or, and he would have fucking found that guy and had him killed and shit like that. There's a whole, one of the big famous episodes, they're in the Pine Barrens with Steve Buscemi and all this shit, and they lose the Russian guy, and like, it's a guy like they shoot in the head and somehow he survives and they're chasing his body through the fucking Pine Barrens and then like he disappears and then that's it. It's like, they never bring up that character. He never comes back to get retribution or anything like that. And it's like, they had so many great stories that there was like no fucking payoff to, not to mention the biggest one being the fucking ending. To end the series the way they did, where everything goes black. Like, I mean, of course, I guess they were always, they probably use that as leverage, like, oh, that we'll make a Sopranos movie, not knowing that fucking James Gandolfini, big 6 foot tall fucking guys who are 300 pounds don't live that long, so, they weren't expecting him to fucking pass away, because I'm pretty sure had he still been alive, that would have been just a Sopranos movie. It would have been a continuation. But they could have done a movie where they could have also done a movie where he was dead and now it's the vacuum of power, who takes over now that Tony's dead. They could have done that movie also. I mean, technically they could still do that movie, but, I mean, am I gonna watch it? Absolutely. But, I'm watching it sort of like, with a little bit of apprehension because, David Chase, he's great at setting things up and unfortunately not that great at paying them off. They had behind the scenes pictures taken of Michael Keaton for the Flash movie. So Michael Keaton is reprising his role as the '89 Batman. It's funny now. DC and Marvel are both fucking running to see who can come out with the first movie that actually has the multiverse involved. I mean, Marvel's gonna beat him to the punch, but not by much. But it's funny because you notice that like there was talks about a Flashpoint movie, aka alternate universes and shit, a long time ago, and DC kind of dragged their feet getting shit taken care of, and now Marvel all of a sudden, because Into the Spider-Verse was its own thing. Into the Spider-Verse is not really connected to any of the Marvel movies, and yet, all of a sudden when DC wants to do a multiverse movie, now all of a sudden now we have Multiverse of Madness and What If and Spider-Man No Way Home and the Loki series. All of a sudden everything's multiverse with Marvel, but let's not forget that DC kind of years and years ago, when they were still fucking around with Batman v Superman, they were saying, oh, we're going to have a Flash movie, and, the focus of when we finally get a Flash solo movie is going to be Flashpoint, which is AKA, branching off timelines and multiverses and, different realities. So, once again, seeing Michael Keaton, if you're reprising, I mean, I hope they don't fucking cop out and it's just Bruce Wayne. Because if it's just Bruce Wayne, that whole movie, I'm gonna fucking be pissed. I want to see Michael Keaton in the fucking suit, guys. The Metallica, the Black Album. It's not really nerdy news, but the Metallica, the Black Album hits 30 years old this year. 30 years since the Black Album came out. That's the one with Enter Sandman and Wherever I May Roam and Nothing Else Matters and all the poser songs. All the people who like don't really like Metallica but like know enough of their songs. Like it's all the songs from that fucking. All the songs from that album, their sellout album, but they're putting out an album where they're releasing like 80 something tracks, where it's all like different bands covering songs from that specific album. And so far they've released like 5 or 6 of them online, and they all suck. Why would you have bands that are worse than Metallica covering Metallica songs? And the sad thing is, the only good sounding one is the one sung by fucking Miley Cyrus. But Miley Cyrus is actually a talented singer. I mean, you take away all the fucking, I'm shaking my pussy on stage because my dad force me to do Disney fucking shows for 10 years or whatever. And once you get past the rebellion, she's actually a talented singer. So, like I said, the only good version is like Nothing Else Matters by Miley Cyrus. And there's like I think like Elton John's on the song, and they got Yo-Yo Ma, like the Chinese violin guy. So I mean it's pretty good. Okay, so I saw In the Heights, Lin-Manuel Miranda thing, and I put out a video about this, and you can see the video on our YouTube page, YouTube Two Strangers Podcast. I put out a theory that Lin-Manuel Miranda needs to write and or direct a G.I. Joe movie. And the reason I say that, and I go more into details, is that I watched a documentary about the behind the scenes of the In the Heights play, the actual play, and this was made, fucking in 2006 and shit or whatever, or 2007, 2008. It was way before anyone knew or cared who the fuck Lin-Manuel Miranda was. And during the recording, like he's in his dressing room, there's a fucking G.I. Joe poster on the wall with like Cobra Commander on it. There's a scene where he's wearing a shirt, it has Destro on it. Once again, from G.I. Joe, for the second in command of the bad guys, Cobra. And then I was doing a little bit of searching, and I found a video of him. And once again, this is around the time of In the Heights, where he was with his buddy in their house. He's in his friend's house or whatever, and he's playing with a Cobra Commander action figure. And I'm like, and this is him as a grown ass man. This is him like while they're doing like In the Heights before he got famous. So like, okay, he did Hamilton, he did In the Heights, which I love. Let me tell you, I loved In the Heights. It's such a good, it's a fantasy movie because nothing bad happens in it. Okay, people, a person dies, an old lady dies, but that's because she dies of old age, not she gets shot or anything like that. Which broke my heart. Spoiler. But In the Heights is such a great fucking movie. It totally makes me. And it's like that New York doesn't even exist. Like the New York I visited doesn't look like the New York they had in The Heights. My point being is that Lin-Manuel Miranda is obviously a G.I. Joe fan, and he has a lot of pull, and he has a lot of people will listen to him. I think he should do a G.I. Joe movie. I would love to see what he can do, because he has respect for the old. And of course, yes, I do recognize that G.I. Joe actually goes back to like the fucking 50s, but I mean the 80s revival of G.I. Joe. And then the last thing on my list, two things. I had mentioned He-Man earlier. The He-Man Revelations, Kevin Smith show. Kevin Smith is the showrunner of the new He-Man Revelations. Looks fucking awesome. Comes out, I would say July 30th, or is it July? On Netflix. They're saying that this is basically a continuation of the original 80s cartoon. Obviously, it looks much better. It's the same people who've done like Voltron and Castlevania and a couple. Like pretty much Netflix uses the same people when they do the animation. So the animation looks fucking fantastic. Kind of has an anime twinge to it. Not too much, but kind of has that the way the shading and shit like that, and the very kinetic energy to all the motions and shit like that. Which is not a bad. I'm not saying that in a negative way. It's fucking beautiful. But Kevin Smith wrote it, and then Kevin Smith's like his right hand man on this particular project was like a guy who's like a die-hard fan. Like he goes like my job, I just wanted to just not disappoint this guy. and then they had, and it's got like Mark Hamill's playing Skeletor. I forgot the woman's name. The woman that played Cersei on Game of Thrones, the evil queen. She's playing Evil Lynn. He got Jason Mewes. He got Jay to play Skunkor or Stinkor, the skunk guy. There's a couple a bunch of people who've worked with Kevin Smith in the past are doing the voices and shit. I loved He-Man growing up, and I think I told a story about it on Facebook. My godbrother used to collect He-Man and like that, and he was a bodybuilder and he was a bouncer at Studio 54, and he did security at this place in New York City called Forbidden Planet, which was like a big famous comic book store. So he used to bring home tons of comics, tons of toys, which is why I guess I'm the way I am today. And one of his things was he prized his fucking He-Man, and he had on imagine shelves. He had shelves like about a foot down from the ceiling, all on his room, about a foot down. But it was like every fucking He-Man toy that came out, he had on display, and like out of the box, but on display on his shit. So that's like a very, very happy memory from my childhood, from my godbrother. So, you know, He-Man, like, and he was like a walking, talking, living He-Man, except he had dark hair. So, you know, He-Man is a very, very, very pleasant memory from my childhood. And then the passing of Bismarcky. The original friend zone.
Yeah.
You got what I need. What you say is just
a friend. Yep.
Yeah, and Bismarcky, you know, and he had a song called Pickin' Boogers. He had a song called The Dragon, which is about like people with like bad breath, like your breath is so bad. It's like, you know, let's be real here. He was like slow or retarded. You know, the guy, he wasn't normal. And he wasn't weird, like, hey, that guy's weird, like Weird Al Yankovic's weird. The guy had some sort of mental issue. But somehow, given his, you know, I mean, not limitations, and you could tell even when he talked all sloppy and like, you know, I mean, people laughed at him, not necessarily with him and shit like that. But he fucking, I mean, you want to talk about the American dream. This fucking guy took whatever disadvantages that he had and turned it around and made it into a fucking career. You know what I'm saying? You know, call it, you know, if you want to make it a joke or whatever the case may be, the guy got fucking paid. You know, and the funny thing is that, like, you know, there's a whole generation of people who only know Bismarcky because he was on that show Yo Gabba Gabba. You know, because you know, that show was very, like, you know, they focused, you know, it always had a big music focus and stuff like that. And Bismarcky was also, one of the things was, you know, he was like a beatbox guy. You know, he was like one of like the top 3 in the 80s of the guys who were like known for beatboxing. So, you know, and he, you know, whatever the case may be, whether he was retarded, and when I say retarded, I mean, of course, I'm not saying that in a negative, derogatory way. The guy had some sort of limitation or special needs, and somehow fucking still made a fucking career. You know, we'll talk about the American dream. So, you know, and I would never laugh at him. I never did laugh at him, but, you know, I laughed with him. You know, he seemed like a fun guy to be around. Coincidentally, I was watching a video today that they were talking about Men in Black 2, and remember, he's in Men in Black 2 for like 2 seconds when Kay is working in the post office, and all, like, everyone who's working in the post office, there are aliens. And then, like, Will Smith talks to Bismarcky, but like in beatbox, like it's supposed to be like an alien language, like, you know. So I thought that was, you know, it was so funny that I just coincidentally seen that video today, like just the day after Bismarcky died. So rest in peace, Biz. Unless you got anything else you wanted to talk about, I'm out.
I mean, I'm good. I mean, I got something going on, but, you know, I'm not going to talk about it just yet. And I may not talk about it for long. What's that? Yeah, until it pans out. I mean, I'll talk about it. If it doesn't pan out, well, yeah, there's going to be an episode. But I mean, right now I got to see how it pans out, and then we'll go from there.
Gotcha. So let's wrap this up.
That's what she said.
All right, please visit twostrangerspodcast.net and .com for all things show related. You can find links to our iTunes page. If you have an iPhone or iPad or iPod, you can subscribe to us there. If you don't have an iPhone, iPad, or iPod, you can subscribe to us on the Stitcher app. That's STITCHER, the Stitcher app for Android devices. Well, before the pandemic, you know, I would put it on Listen Later and available offline. So I would download the episodes to my Stitcher app. So when I'm out and about and I'm running errands and stuff like that, I don't have to kill the data on my phone or kill the battery on my phone. Get everything while I'm in the Wi-Fi area and listen to it that way. Or you can listen to it at home if you like. And of course, those are the two options. Or you could go right to the source and go right to our SoundCloud page. That's where all the episodes are hosted, and you can get us there. I'm slowly working on. I had taken a bunch of episodes years ago and put them on YouTube. And now that I got the new computer and I got faster processing and shit like that, I'm slowly uploading other episodes from that were like that, you know, between the time we were on back in the day when we were on Podomatic and now on SoundCloud. So pretty much any podcast, soon we'll have every single episode, all the way up until modern times, all will be on, at least on YouTube. For that, we want your money. We need your money. And until I set up a fucking Patreon, I can sit and make a fucking whole cartoon. I can't set up a Patreon page. But until we do that, it takes 2 seconds to like us on Facebook, like and subscribe, share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with your enemies. I don't care. Just spread the word about the podcast. I mean, we don't podcast that often, but when we do, it's a good fucking show. And then, once again, like Paul mentioned earlier, we might get back to more frequent recordings. It's just, shit's just, life just doesn't happen the way it's supposed to.
Well, I mean, you have your kid full time, and I have my kid full time. So, I mean, once my kid starts sleeping, which I don't foresee, I foresee that happening in the next month or two. Like, we'll be back to regular recording. So.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that's also, that's been a big, that's kind of a big hurdle on my thing, is having a kid, and I'm pretty sure anybody who's listening to this podcast heard my daughter in the background and shit like that. Because she's vibrant and energetic and needs constant attention, and I can only give her so much. I'm just a single man. I tried to. I was just gonna no Oscar mail. When they get to this part of the show, I always remember Oscar. No Oscar mail. I don't know. Maybe he died in the pandemic. But you could also once again, I had mentioned YouTube, and I just spent 10 minutes talking up my cartoon. Give the cartoon a look. It's on our YouTube page, and I've been uploading episodes of the podcast, so it's not exactly on the top of our list. But it came out on June 14th, on my birthday. Veil Corp. You can find the cartoon there. You can find links to the 4 albums worth of music that I put out under the name XLNYC. You can find the audiobook, Odd I See a Tale from the Road. All of the stuff is on our YouTube page. You can find my Stranger vlogs. When I did that YouTube you can see my whole video on Lin-Manuel Miranda Should Write and Direct G.I. Joe movie. That's my latest Stranger vlog, and you can see my other Stranger vlogs years back. Let's see what else. Or you can write to us. Like I said, I just double checked the email, and right now it's pretty much all spam. No Oscar mail, but you can write to us at twostrangersonepodcast@gmail.com, all spelled out, twostrangersonepodcast@gmail.com. Our YouTube page, YouTube, Facebook, where to find the episodes, and I can't think of anything else. I acquiesce the floor to you, sir.
Chris is a little tired, just like I am.
Just beat up.
All right, well, you can find me on Twitter, as always, at Paul Pascrillo. You can email me, paulpascrillo@toonamifaithful.com. And that's about it. I mean, you can find me on Instagram, too, instagram.com/Paul Pascrillo, if you want to follow me there as well. So, so that's about it.
All right, so, more to come. Let's see what happens. Because, I'm wondering, with Comic-Con, there is a slight possibility that maybe they'll have limited numbers and we won't get press passes. Who knows what's going on with that? So who knows? Maybe if we don't get press passes, maybe not getting press passes will have saved my life. I don't get to go to Comic-Con and I don't get to catch fucking Delta variant or whatever. Which I'm willing, like I said, I'm willing to fucking go. I'll get one of those biohazard suits if I'm
willing to get the COVID.
Or I'm willing to fucking die for my craft. But stay tuned. We'll keep you guys updated on everything that's going on with that. Now that I got my new honka computer, who knows what, I kind of have a couple of projects in my head on what I want to do next. I promise you, I am writing scripts. I am working on other things and, I haven't made music in a minute, but, maybe I kind of go back and forth with everything. But the podcast is the one thing that we've been kind of steady doing. I mean, even if it's one episode a month, we're still putting out some sort of content. So keep coming back. Let us, keep you updated on what's going on. We'll let you keep you updated on the Crazy Neighbor saga. And we certainly hope you guys enjoyed listening and had as much fun as we did recording. Thank you for listening to Two Strangers, One Podcast. I'm Chris.
I'm Paul.
Don't be a stranger.
Peace.
Bye. You should be fapping. Don't steal people's shit.
All right, here we go, man. Go ahead. You want to read
Double Jackpot.
What is it?
It is a self-published book by Christopher Cologne.
Chris Cologne? Smells good to me.
But
look at her. That broke that fucking cold little exterior. He's like, hee.
But it is spelled C-O-L-O-N.
Him punny.
But Double Jackpot is a book about a comic book artist, Eric, who is in a loveless relationship with the materialistic
I feel you, Eric.
Lynette.
Oh, fucking. Are you sure I didn't write this? Sounds hauntingly familiar.
He starts cheating on his girlfriend with a more creatively supportive woman, Nadia.
Well, I gotta meet her. Where's the Nadia?
There's your summer girlfriend.
Summer Nadia is Nadia.
Nadia?
Yeah, I think Nadia spelled with an A.
All right.
Both Lynette and Nadia play the double jackpot, the largest payout in lotto history, much like the recent Powerball. Both girls play his birth date as the winning numbers. Eric is now stuck between two of the country's richest women. Who will he choose? It's not that simple. This is a clever fucking idea,
yeah,
man.
Is.
Look at her, fucking. She's impressed.
I am.
She got some summer reading. Christopher Cologne smells real lovely with an original idea. Is this? I've never heard this before.
I haven't either. This is a self-published book, much in the indie spirit as Kev's Clerks.
Oh, you don't even need to name check me. This is just a good idea. You could stand on your own, man. You don't even have to be like, hey, remember Clerks? This is nothing like that. This is way more original than Clerks. This is a good idea, man. Why didn't I think of this?
I need something to read. This book is part of the Comic Books, Heavy Metal, Video Games Trilogy Book 2. Odd I See, A Tale from the Road, coming soon.
Right on, man. It's part of a trilogy. This is the first part.
Way to write, man.
He's seeking a literary agent. Motherfuckers, anybody out there? There ain't no literary agents listening to this show, I assure you, sure. Sure. I assure you, sure. But somebody know a literary agent? Hook a motherfucker up! Chris Cologne come up with an original idea. I should tell Raskin. That's a good fucking idea, to be honest with you. That's a fucking rom-com right there. Megan, get Raskin on the phone. Isn't it possible to get Raskin on the phone? No?
Yeah.
I want to run it past him, man. And if it happens, I get a taste, Chris Cologne. I get a whiff, if you will.
The book could also be ordered on www.lulu.com.
That's lulu.com.
I understand that. I just want to spell it out.
Normally one says that spells it. Still, lulu.com. What is that? Do you know what it is?
I don't know. All right. The book could also be ordered on www.lulu.com. Search for Double Jackpot Christopher Cologne. A paperback version of the book is $15, and a PDF file is only $5.
$5 is
yeah.
insanely inexpensive. 15's not even that bad for a paperback version.
No.
This is $1 million idea right here. Like a movie about a dude who fucking is stuck between two chicks, both of who play his birthday and win the lottery. Come on! I can see that trailer. Chris Cologne is on to something. Nobody else can smell it but me.
I'll read it.
Thank you. I'm going to make that smelly joke.
I know, you're trying to get me to laugh again.
It worked once. Double Jackpot is a self-published book by Chris Cologne, man. It's the first book in his Comic Books, Heavy Metal, Video Games trilogy. Book 2, Odd I See, A Tale from the Road, should be coming out soon. Get all the information at Chris Cologne, like a motherfucker.
I will totally read this.
Double Jackpot. I'm serious. I'm going to recommend that to fucking Raskin. How is that not a movie? You know what I'm saying? This could be a sexy movie. You could do an R-rated version. There could be nudie in it, and you could show them fucking both chicks. Maybe a little penetration. Maybe a butthole shot. No butthole, no care.
I would like to formally apologize to Christopher Cologne right now.
No, sex sells. Chris Cologne will appreciate that. He's like, thanks for throwing a few buttholes in there, man.
Don't forget to check out twostrangersonepodcast.net, your one-stop resource for everything show-related. You can find links to subscribe to us on iTunes or on Stitcher. You could also find links to buy my book, Double Jackpot, on twostrangersonepodcast.net.
Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. You're cool. And fuck you, I'm out.